Hey guys, welcome to another Zelda video. Man, I'm on a Zelda roll. Today we're going to be talking about a few fan-made Zelda games, some that I've recently found while doing research, and some that I really enjoyed while I was a kid. The first two that we're talking about are two Newgrounds Flash games, and the first one being Zelda: The Seeds of Darkness. Newgrounds was a place I would often visit to find cool Flash games to play, and I would always find myself exploring the Zelda section for cool games. And what I often found myself playing was The Seeds of Darkness. The game was based off the sprites from Minish Cap and had you traveling through the woods with a giant bomb attached to you, trying to use it to blow up the 3 Seeds of Darkness. I used to love this game when I was a kid, and now that I'm playing it again, I have no clue why in the world I did. This game is literally impossible, and the whole thing is an escort mission. While traveling through the forest, you must protect the bomb from being hit, and if it's hit enough, it'll explode and kill you. Having it not hit is easy until you get to the first boss area, and they just dominate the bomb. You can stay in one place and get pooped on, or run away and your bomb will just blow up anyways. No matter how many times I fought these guys, I had no clue how to beat them. The next game was another that I actually still enjoy today, which revolves around Zelda's known item quests that have you traveling around and exchanging items for items till you get an awesome item at the end, a la the Big Goron sword in Ocarina of Time. The game starts with you fighting a big, impossible to kill boss, but thankfully he has a huge, obvious weak spot, like all Zelda bosses. And once you unplug him, you get the mighty lampshade. Once you enter the world, you find a temple you must bring the lampshade to, but sadly a guard is blocking the way, and he's hungry. So you must get him food, and he gives you money to get the food. But the store is sold out, so you give a man money to buy a Wii to get a bottle of hairspray, who you give to Samus to fix her hair. And then she gives you a tiny iron you use to kill a man and take his vase. Then you use that vase to get a frog out of a well. Then give that frog to Solid Snake so he can eat. Then he gives you some tiger face paint that Kirby needs, and he'll give you a taser that you use to yet again kill one more guy. And then get a light gun, who you give to Dante from Devil May Cry, who gives you a shovel to get a dead body. Then you can finally take that dead body to the food store so they can make you a hamburger out of it. You can then give it to the guard, who then continues to die. Wow, I just realized you kill a lot of people in this quest line, but it was all worth it, for in the end, you restore the feng shui to the room in the temple. The end. Now, those were just a few games that I enjoyed while I was a kid, and while doing research, I found a lot more, like a 2-dimensional Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time 2D is a remake of Ocarina of Time in a more 2-dimensional style, obviously. Sadly, most of it isn't complete so far, and you can only play up to meeting Princess Zelda for the first time. It plays pretty well though. Some of the enemies do have bad hit detection, and the creator took some weird liberties like Apache helicopters in Hyrule Field. But overall it looks really cool and plays really well. I would love to see a full version one day. The next two are hacks of Ocarina of Time, known as Zelda's Birthday and Voyager of Time. And man, am I excited to try these. These two are very interesting experiences, but first let's talk about Zelda's Birthday. It was released on the 10th anniversary of Ocarina of Time to celebrate its release, and I have mixed feelings on it. The game is presented well and everything feels really nice until you get to the first dungeon. Then things start to look like this. Yeah, the first dungeon was kinda weird. It wasn't designed well and the puzzles used were kind of ridiculous. Never mind the monsters you have to fight to win can kill you in 1 or 2 hits. The real killer for the game though was the amount it crashed on me. Almost every time I opened the start menu to change my equipment, if I touched anything before the menu popped up, the game would crash, causing me to lose all of my progress. And you can only save by opening the menu, so I would save constantly. But the huge killer was Hyrule Field. While exploring Hyrule Field, there was a sign that says, "Kill every enemy and get a prize." And oh my god, it's not easy killing all the enemies while the game is lagging and killing the FPS. But I did it and even got a heart container for it. And you know what I got in return? The game freezing and crashing when I go to save so I don't lose all my progress. So at that point, I decided to move on to Voyager of Time. Now I start up Voyager of Time and the first thing that comes to my mind is, wow, look at all of these trees placed everywhere with no reasoning. This is gonna be great. And boy was I right. Sadly, this hack was just as bad as the last. I really wanted to find myself enjoying these hacks like I did with Ocarina of Time, but man did they blow. Trees placed randomly for no reason, dungeon puzzles that are just insane for any casual player to understand unless you know how Zelda works really well, and just some super cheap moves that make the game look really dumb. I don't understand why some people don't understand basic game design and what works and what doesn't. It's kind of obvious, and making something really hard usually doesn't make it funner. It's not a word, but I'm gonna use it. Now, hopefully the last game can make up for these two, because I've heard some good things about it, and I'm kind of excited to try it. It's called Zelda Parallel Worlds. Zelda Parallel Worlds is a full-on change to A Link to the Past that adds new dungeons, story, and world. And when I first started it, I was really enjoying it. A new world to explore, a cool atmosphere, and the first dungeon was really interesting, and I loved the design choices for it, but, well, things really took a change after the first dungeon. The game doesn't really give you any help other than, hey, go here. But there's really no obvious way there. At least when Link to the Past told you where to go, you could understand how to get there from the map. But when I look at this, how am I supposed to get there? Because this path doesn't lead there, and this path leads to a dog that kills me in one hit. And this path is blocked off, so you tell me how to get there. And after some research, it seems like I'm not the only person with these issues. Tons of people claim this game is too hard, causes too much backtracking, and just isn't helpful enough when it comes to showing the player what to do. I really wanted to love this game and play it unlike the Zelda hacks for Ocarina of Time, but really what I learned today was leave Zelda to Nintendo, because really, unless you're making a funny parody on Newgrounds, your game is just gonna be a pile of trash. Sorry to anyone who enjoyed these games or spent years making them, but I just can't enjoy them. And if you wish to experience them for yourself, links are in the description. I wish you fun stabbing yourself in the face while trying to figure out how to make the hacks work. I'll see you all in the next video. Or maybe not. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Fan Games. I really didn't think this would become a series, but you guys really loved it, and I decided to continue doing it because you continuously asked me to do some fan-made Crash Bandicoot games. So here we are today. So let's hop in and play some fan-made Crash games. Please don't be as bad as the last ones. Starting off, let's talk about the more boring games, meaning the 2D games, usually made in Flash or Game Maker or whatever else people could get their hands on 8 years ago. The first game we'll be talking about is the only 2D game I wasn't able to play and could only find videos on, called Crash of Chaos. And out of all of the games I played, it's really the game with the best graphics for any of the two-dimensional games. It looks crisp, the sound effects are great, though they are just ripped from the actual Crash game, and the animations are all fluent. There isn't much I can say since I can't actually play it, so what you see is really what I get to see too. Now, moving on to the games I was actually able to play, starting off with Cortex Conquest 2. Yeah, 2. I have no clue where 1 is, and I'm not gonna lie, I really don't care because this game is not that great. You play as Cortex, who's about to make his plan to rule the world, but before he can do that, Dr. Entropy comes in, tells Cortex he's gonna take over the world instead, and steals Nina Cortex. And now, you must go on an adventure to save her. You can jump on crates just like a normal Crash game, but you can also shoot your ray gun and throw bombs. But the controls are just overall bad, and there are a lot of blind mistakes in the game. See, here to blow up these iron crates, you need to use a bomb, and you can only get 1 of them. So I throw the bomb, and boom! It only blows up 2 of the 3 boxes. And now I can't get past them to finish the level. And even when I tried to jump and throw the bomb, it didn't make it up high enough to blow up the top crate. So now I'm stuck here with no idea how to beat the level. The other issue is the hit detection. It's really spotty. I can jump on an enemy and still take damage because I was too far from the center of the enemy, even though I'm still obviously landing on it. Plus, for some reason, the game kept changing aspect ratios. The menu was like this, the warp room was like this, the gameplay was like this, and for some reason, the cutscenes were like this. Why? But after dying over and over again and just starting to not care because the game really wasn't fun, I decided to quit. Best decision ever. Moving on to Crash Bandicoot Flash, this was a browser-based Flash game that had you go into warp rooms, get crystals and gems, and even fight a boss and get a new ability. It surprisingly is really well made, using animations from the game when getting a crystal or even moving while crouching. The game controlled really well except for when you're on ice, and the 5 different levels are all varied, giving you a grass level, a temple level, a boulder chase level, and more. I really enjoyed this one and even beat it 100%, getting all the crystals and gems that I could. I also want to point out this awesome glitch I found, which made it so whenever I broke a box, it stayed there, so I have like 100 out of 55 boxes. The game was supposed to be a full game with more levels, bosses, and abilities, but from what I can find, the author of the game gave up on it and is now doing something else with his time. And the last 2D game is actually a series titled Energon, created by Jump Button CM, but we'll talk a little bit about him more later on. The first game in the series controlled pretty bad. It was impossible to tell where you were landing because your feet were 3 times bigger than the boxes, but I guess the hitbox is at the tip of your front foot, so I started to understand where to land after a bit. And man, do you have to quickly understand where you land, because there are TNTs and nitros everywhere. Just look at this. Imagine doing this and not knowing where your hitbox is. And after a few levels like that, I was starting to get more into the game. But then we reached a driving level that was kind of pointless. There were almost no places where you needed to jump, and it just controlled itself. I felt like something cool was about to happen because the music changed, but then this happened. Yeah, and after that I shut down the game and moved on to the second one. Energon Part 2 continues to follow Crash as he tries to beat up Cortex again for attacking the island with Energon. And this one was a bit better. The controls felt nicer and telling where your hitbox is was a lot easier. The problem now was jumping, because most of the time the jumps are extremely large and it's hard to tell when you're reaching the end of a cliff because the hitbox isn't in the middle of your body. Now it's somewhere far off to the left. So you just gotta guess when the best time to jump is. Also, I got stuck in this thing twice, but after making my way through the level, I found myself in another place that caused me to quit. The Cortex boss. Not gonna lie, this boss is extremely unfair, and I still have no clue how to beat him. He travels around the screen shooting red blasts, and they're for the most part pretty easy to dodge. But when he shoots the third one, he's in this magical position that makes it extremely hard to dodge. Especially since you want to be near him, because I think this is the only time you can hit him. And even if you get past this part, he now shoots a green bullet straight across the screen, and you can't duck under it, and I could never jump over it no matter how many times I tried, so again, I just gave up. And I'm gonna be truthful here, I started the third game, but by that point I just didn't care anymore, so I died a few times and then I just stopped playing. Now that we got the boring stuff out of the way, let's move on to the 3D Crash games, and we have 5 to talk about today. So let's talk about the 2 I was actually able to play first, and then we'll move on to the 3 that are currently in development. The first game we're going to be talking about is the HD remake of Crash Bandicoot, which looks beautiful. You can travel around the first level of Crash Bandicoot and see some of the icons in HD, but breaking boxes and all that fun stuff isn't in the game yet. And there isn't even a model, it's just first person for me, but it looks breathtaking. The only issue I had with it was getting up these damn stairs. I could never make the jump, and half the time I fell off the side of the map while trying to make the jump, so I'd have to wait to respawn and then walk all the way back. In a video on the creator's YouTube page, you can find a more complete version of the level that isn't playable yet, but looks much better. More textures are in it, Crash has a model, and the whole level is pretty much complete. The creator of this game is currently working on a different game right now, but he stated once he finishes that one, he'll come back to finish Crash HD. And I can't wait to see what it looks like when it's done. But till then, well, let's talk about the next game. And oh boy, do I have a lot to talk about when it comes to this piece of junk. The next game is known as Crystals Forever, and when I first started playing it, all I got was this. Yeah, it made me want to throw up. But eventually I figured out if I unplugged my mouse, started the game, then plugged it back in, the spinning would stop, but God, did the controls not get any better. Crash walks like a retarded crab. Meaning I could be looking forward and holding forward, but he would decide to walk diagonally to the left or right. There was just no straight when it came to moving this guy unless I turned the camera to the side and walked sideways. Then he kinda straightened out, but guess what that means? I can't see anything in front of me, so jumps are still impossible to make. Just look. This is the first puzzle type thing in the game where I need to jump up these pillars and across to another to get a gem that opens a barrier. But these controls are so wonky I can't even manage to make the jump. So instead, I jumped up the side of the wall and walked around the barrier. Sadly, in the next area I couldn't do that, so I spent like an hour trying to make it across this platforming section sideways to open the barrier. And I finally did it to be rewarded with nothing. The next portal goes nowhere. Thankfully, there's another part of the game I can play, but first I have to unplug my mouse, start the game, and plug it back in, and oh my god. How am I supposed to do this with horrible controls? And you know what? I didn't do it. After about an hour of trying and failing, I just quit. Simple as that, because I don't care. There's another part of the game to try anyways, but guess what? You'll never see it because I can't fix the spinning in this game by unplugging my mouse. So this is all you'll ever get to see. Wow, I wanted to shoot myself while playing that game. But thankfully we're done with it and we can finally move on to the in-development games that I couldn't get my hands on any demos for. The first of these games is a tech demo for, again, Crash Bandicoot HD. This was the one posted a few years back when people were hearing hints of Activision maybe making another Crash. And when this video came out, people went crazy thinking it was a new game. Sadly, not, and from what I understand, this is all we will be getting of this game, since it was just a tech demo, and no game based around it is currently planned, and it's too bad because it looks gorgeous, but I guess we can always just hope for a brighter future, especially with these next 2 games currently being worked on. This game is titled Crash Bandicoot Frost, and there isn't too much finished on it at the moment, but from what we can see, it's looking to be great. The first level the creator did and has posted on his YouTube channel is a recreation of the famous Crash chase levels, but this time with a demonic sliding shark from hell. And boy, does this look intense and awesome, even if the shark's mouth dehinges in like 10 locations. I would personally love to try this level out because it looks awesome, intense, and fun. On top of that, he also recreated a type of Crash Bash level where you fight 4 AI polar bears and try to push them off the side of the iceberg. And as someone who loved Crash Bash, seeing this in HD just warms my heart. I'd love to see this in his game as a boss fight of sorts, but besides those 2 videos he's posted, that's about all the work we can see. So let's move on to our last and final game to talk about today. This is Crystal's Wrath, created by our old friend from a while back known as Jump Button CM. He's graduated from 2D to 3D and brought a friend along. A personal friend of mine you may actually know called Pat Strikes Back. These two have teamed up to create a Crash Bandicoot game the fans will love, and a while back they started that journey and have recently stated they are starting the project over. Yeah, that's right. Everything you see here is from the prototype version of the game. In 2 videos that I will be posting in the description below, Pat and Jump Button talk about the original prototype game and what exactly was wrong with it and how they messed it up. But then go on to also talk about the new version of the game they're making that is way better in every way. Sadly, there's no content from the new version yet on their channel, but they have been saying and posting teasers that we'll be seeing content hopefully soon. And from just looking at the prototype, I really can't wait to see what the final game is like. On top of that, Pat is doing the music for the game, and he released some of the tracks that were going to be in the prototype of the game. And man, do they sound spot on like a Crash soundtrack. Just take a listen to a few. You see what I mean? This game is looking and sounding to be incredible. And out of all of the games I've talked about today, it is the one that I am the most excited for. But if you want to check out more on the game or the other games I played today, check in the description below for download links and YouTube channels. I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, I'll see you in the next video. Welcome back, and today we'll be talking about some more fan-made games because, well, you guys love them so much. And, well, I found an awesome game, but we'll be talking about it last because, well, gotta save the best for last. But let's hop straight into some fan-made Rayman games, starting off with some great 2-dimensional platformers. First off, let's talk about the few games I was actually able to play. The first being The Impossible Rayman. This game is an endless runner where you change direction, jump, and roll. The controls are a bit wonky and hard to get a hold of, but I really did have some fun with it. The main problem though was that the tutorial was probably the hardest level besides the one where you control 2 Raymans, but I couldn't see the second Rayman, so I had no clue where to make him go, and he just kinda kept dying. But for a small, quickly put together minigame, it's really fun. But if you want to play something like this, I would just recommend Rayman Jungle Run or Fiesta Run on mobile devices because those are published by Ubisoft and are designed so well. The last one I was actually able to play was Dark Magician's Reign of Terror, which was in the style of Rayman 1 and played really well. Though either I really sucked at Rayman games or this game is just way too hard for me. I couldn't beat a single level without dying, and there are 3 different levels to explore. 4 levels if you can actually 100% all of the other ones, but there is no way I'm going to be able to do that when I'm dying every 5 minutes. Overall though, it controlled really well, the levels were interesting, and I really enjoyed it, even when I was dying, which is always a good thing. And yeah, those were the only ones I was actually able to play. But don't be worried, there are plenty of more where that came from, with great gameplay videos for me to talk about. And some of them are really weird, so let's talk about those ones first. The first of these weird games is Eclipse, which I'm not gonna lie, I actually think looks pretty good, even though the art style is extremely weird. All the characters, as you can see, are made of circles, and I'm not really sure if you're playing as Rayman or not, but he has all of Rayman's moves, flying with your hair, throwing your fist, and all that kind of fun stuff. It's also animated really well, which you can see by the characters grabbing onto ledges and pulling himself up, which shows me a lot of love and care was put into the game. Sadly, I can't play it, so there isn't much more I can say about it other than I wish I could play it, but let's move on to the weirdest Rayman fan game of them all. Yeah, what you're looking at isn't Doom. It's Rayman Doom. That's right, someone took the Doom program and made a mature Rayman game out of it, making new levels, art assets, textures, characters, and I love it. It may be super cheesy or dumb or whatever you want to call it, but I want to play this game because shooting those dumb pirates in the face would be the best thing ever. On top of that, just like Doom, there is an awesome rocking soundtrack, tons of secrets, and even more cool enemies to fight. This is another game I would just really love to try for myself. But now, let's take a few steps away from the weird fan-made games and move on to the games that actually resemble Rayman a bit more. The first of these being an actual expansion to the first Rayman game, which is more of a hack than a fan-made game, but hey, who's judging these things? And I think it deserves to be on the list. The game includes 40 new levels and 6 new worlds, with a ton of new content to add on to the end of the first game, which is a great idea. I love when people take a game and continue onto it with either hacks or by making their own game because it gives them something to work with and it usually turns out well. And from what I can see, it's looking pretty great. The next game, like the original Rayman, is Rayman Returns. And to tell you the truth, I don't know too much about this game, and the only information I can find is on his YouTube page that says, "This is level blank of my fan-made game Rayman Returns." So I don't really know a story or a premise of the game or anything else about this game other than it looks like Rayman 1. Like, I could just be showing you Rayman 1 footage right now and you'd never tell the difference. See? Here are 2 videos of Rayman 1 and Rayman Returns. Can you tell me which one is which? Yeah, I bet you can because you're super awesome like that. But let's move on to the next game because I really have nothing left to say on this one. But hey, this game here is a bit more interesting, seeing that it uses its own art style, though it still uses many things from other Rayman games, including music from Rayman 2. One thing I did find cool about it was some of the mechanics implemented, like the fact that you can ride on the giant grapes like in Rayman 2, and there's teleporters that bring you into the background and back to the foreground, making a more 2.5D experience, something that we don't see in many Rayman games, so it looks like it could be a really fun game to try out. Now these next 2 games are more like Rayman 2 when it comes to the art style. The first game is Rayman DX, which obviously takes from Rayman 2, using the same music, enemies, icons, and more for the game, but hey, that's not a bad thing because Rayman 2 is the bomb, and a 2D version of that could never go wrong. And from what I can see, this looks like a really interesting game, and I love the art style. But besides the fact it's a 2D platformer, there's nothing much else I can say about it really. The next game though is really interesting, since it's kind of a mix between Rayman 1, 2, and 3. By this I mean it plays like Rayman 2, uses a Rayman 1 art style, but also uses Rayman 3 power-up abilities. Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? And I find it really awesome. The game is titled Razorbeard's Revenge, so I would assume that it takes place after Rayman 2 and Razorbeard is back to get some payback for you kicking his butt in the second game. But really, just like the past few games, there's almost nothing I can say about this game, so let's move on to the main part of this video, what I'm here to talk about, and that is Rayman Revenge of the Dark. Rayman Revenge of the Dark is a 3D fan-made game done by Absolution, and oh god does it look beautiful. I may be wrong, but I believe the game is designed in the Crysis engine, and we can see a huge amount of levels already close to finished. My favorite of these being Picture City, a level made completely out of pencils, and I think it looks really awesome. There is also the Dream Forest, Memory Realm, Gemstone Ruins, Music Mountain, Ice Volcano, Temporal Palace, and Canyon of the Lost. And fitting to the title, a lot of these levels are really dark. Maybe a bit too dark, but even while they are super dark, they still look really beautiful. The story of the game takes place after the first game, but before the second, and tells the tale of Mr. Dark's most volatile creation, exactly 1 year after the evil sorcerer had been defeated. The game includes a dark version of Rayman, and we can already hear some voiceover stuff for the game.
At this point in time, there is no redemption.
You incompetent slave! I don't care!
This is one I really wished I could have tried for myself, but hey, like most of the 3D games I find, I usually don't get to play them, and they're just really videos I can look at. But we can always hope that one day it will come out, or we can even just get a demo to try out, who knows? Sadly, a lot of these projects are dead, and that's why I wasn't able to play most of them, but some still shine through, like Revenge of the Dark, which I really hope will come out one day and we'll all be able to enjoy. But till then, there's still more franchises we can check out fan-made games for. So until then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Welcome to another episode of Fan-Made Games, and you guys have been asking a lot for Mario Fan Games, and well, there's too many of them. Like, I would have to make multiple parts to cover all of the games I want to talk about. And while I was searching through, I surprisingly found a lot of Paper Mario fan games, so I thought it would be a great idea to do a video just on Paper Mario fan games. So, welcome to Paper Mario Fan Games. First off, like usual, let's talk about some games I wasn't actually able to play, though there really is only one game, that being Epic Paper Mario, a huge fan game being made by ICU Gigasoft, the same people behind The World Ends With You Noisebusters, Super Mario RPG The Starlight Worlds, Super Mario RPG The Seven Sages, and Pokemon Star Heroes and Adventurers. So they have a lot of fan games on their back, so I'm sure this one will turn out great. The second one isn't even a game, but a fan creation still. DeviantArt is well known for fan-created Paper Mario stories, with fan-drawn characters and plots to go along with them. And the most well-known of these is Paper Mario Countdown to Chaos. The reason this one specifically is the most well-known is because of how well it's designed. The plot is really interesting, all the characters stand out from the others, and even have stats made up for them. And there's even music composed for the game, but that's because the person who designed the game is going to school for exactly that. The game's plot revolves around Mario, who must collect the chrome stars which have been scattered around different time periods in order to keep the Grand Star Clock, the keeper of time in the Mushroom World, from stopping, effectively making time stand still for eternity. These events have been caused by an unknown force at first, and Mario investigates what or exactly who caused this. It's a great plot idea that allows you to travel to different time periods and meet all kinds of characters like knights, mummies, and robots. The game is well known as Countdown to Chaos, but the creator of the game wasn't actually a fan of the story and rebooted it as The Rewind Chronicles. There's no longer time travel, but going to different places in time is still part of the story, though the creator of the game has not stated how this will be possible. I'm overall excited to see how it turns out and would love if Nintendo contacted him to use his story for a Wii U or NX game because it's a brilliant idea. Well, now that we got those games out of the way, let's move on to some that I was actually able to play. And the first two we will be talking about are, well, how do I put it? Not good. The first of this bunch is Paper Mario Journey to Peach, where enemies submarine through the ground and have horrible hitboxes. The controls are also super floaty, like literally, when you jump you go super high, then float to the ground. It's not really fun, and I didn't even realize you could go down this warp pipe till I started editing the video and went back to do it a bit more. Just a heads up, it's a few more levels that aren't fun, and then a level with a bottomless hole you can't jump over. But really, compared to the next two games, this one is a masterpiece. These next two games are so bad, I just couldn't handle them. Like, just look at the gameplay. What is this? Why are the enemies moving so fast? How am I supposed to dodge that? The ceilings in some part are also so low, you just can't jump over them, so I just have to suck it up and take the damage. But really, that's not what annoyed me the most about this game. What annoyed me was the fact that once I died because of how stupidly this game was designed, the game just shuts off. No save, no continue, just shuts down. Imagine if you were about to beat Ganon in Link to the Past and you die. The game shuts off and you have to restart. Like, really? Why? The sequel is even worse too. The enemies aren't crazy, but you control so much worse than the last game, and if you die, it's game over. You touch one enemy, you skid past the turtle shell, you pixel touch a Goomba's toe, game over. You have to restart and watch the decently long cutscene all over again. Let's move on to something that's actually good, please. Okay, truthfully, I wouldn't call the next game good, but it isn't bad. It's just weird. It's basically a short dating sim between Peach and Francis. There aren't many options, and pretty much every path ends with Francis running away or giving you the option to marry him or say, "Ew, gross." So yeah, like I said, not good, not bad, just weird. But on to some of the awesome games I was able to play. The first being Paper Mario. Yeah, it's just called Paper Mario. And while this one isn't too amazing, I still had fun playing it. The game has a weird top-down view and has you using Mario's spin ability a lot throughout the game to break blocks, dodge enemies, or fight bosses. It was simple but an enjoyable time, just stomping and smashing enemies and then spinning to kill bosses. Yeah, there really isn't much I can say about this game other than, hey, it was fun and I enjoyed playing it, so yeah. Next is the Paper Bowser Trilogy, a group of fan games based off the events in Thousand Year Door where you play as Bowser and smash through everything in your wake. The first game really isn't anything special. Peach and Mario are leaving on a vacation and Bowser is mad no one informed him of this or even invited him, so he heads off to give Peach a piece of his mind. The gameplay is pretty much a copy and paste of how it plays out in Thousand Year Door, and every once in a while you fight a Yoshi boss. It's simple but fun. The sequel adds some more features, including puzzles that have you clicking buttons to make your way through a maze-like area. It also has a new item that allows you to shrink or grow, allowing you to get into smaller areas. The story has you trying to get to the moon to steal Peach from the X-Nauts who have kidnapped her once again. I didn't play too far into it, but I really enjoyed the intro that has that comedic feel that Bowser always brings along with him. But truthfully, I just wanted to try out the third game, so I quickly skipped through the first and second game to get to the third one. Now, the plot of the third game has Bowser thinking he should stop trying to be so helpful, since it only ever gets him hurt, and he's going to go back to his big bad boss roots and steal Peach once again. So he heads off onto his journey to find Peach. Out of all three games, this one is definitely the most impressive one, with great graphics, an awesome soundtrack, tight controls, and spot-on humor. The game keeps you laughing through the plot as Bowser stumbles into a weird character who wants to cast him as the superhero of his new TV show, and he continues to bug Bowser by having him save a princess cow from a boss, kill some scary bandits, and then even just cause Bowser to straight up run away from him. I really wanted to keep playing this game, but when I went to pause it, I accidentally closed it. So I kind of lost all of my progress. There is a password system, but it brings you back to the first level of the world, and I was close to beating the world. And on top of that, I kind of wasn't paying attention to the passwords anyways. So let's move on to talking about the two games I enjoyed the most. The first is surprisingly the only game out of any of these that actually has a battle system like the original Paper Mario games did. It's titled Paper Mario Great Star Offensive. There is no plot from what I played other than Peach has gone away and you're taking care of things around the kingdom. The graphics aren't amazing, but hey, they do the job. The gameplay, on the other hand, is outstanding. Walking into an enemy will start a battle where you can attack enemies, use items, special abilities, or star attacks after unlocking them from beating a boss. And just like in the other Mario games, you can block attacks and do more damage by timing your button presses right. I can imagine how hard it must be to program a combat system like that, and whoever designed this game did a great job at it. On top of that, there are also plenty of secrets where you can find star pieces to buy new badges or get more money, and you can even buy items to use. And as you start each chapter, you get that nostalgic chapter intro like you would get in the original games. Really, if you love the first two Paper Mario games, this one is definitely a love note to them, and a fun little game to play if you want more Paper Mario. Plus, it's not short at all, so expect to spend a good chunk of time on it. Now, the last game is a more well-known Mario fan game, and is definitely a huge project. What I'm talking about is Paper Mario 3D Land, a mix between Super Mario 3D Land and Paper Mario. This game is the definition of a fan-made masterpiece. Beautiful levels, designs, characters, and more. If someone gave me this game and told me it was made by Nintendo, I would have totally believed them. The game plays exactly like Super Mario 3D Land, where you have an overworld that you choose a level from and then play through. You also get a good choice of power-ups. So far from what I played, I was able to get the Fire Flower, a Mole Suit, and a Flower Suit that lets you float for a while. There are also 3 green stars that you can find in each level and bosses to fight. I didn't play crazy far into the game because I needed to make this video and because this game is pretty long. But the first boss I faced was actually well designed, having you stand over grates and make the thwomp crash into the lava. If you do want to play fan-made Paper Mario games, I would really recommend playing Paper Mario 3D Land and Paper Mario Great Star Offensive because they are both great games that should be experienced by any Paper Mario fan. And the others, well, some I would recommend, and others, well, play if you dare, I guess. Also, if you're interested, there is also Paper Mario Origami, a Paper Luigi's Mansion minigame, and Super Mario Sketch that, well, I just couldn't get any of them to work on my computer, but who knows, maybe you guys can. Thank you all for watching, and if you have any ideas for more fan-made game videos or games that I could play for a Mario fan-made games video, feel free to post them in the comments below because I would love to read them. Once again, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Welcome to another episode of Fan Made Games, and today I'm going to be talking about a topic that you guys have been asking about for a long time. Basically, anytime I make a fan-made games video, you ask about this specific one. Or whenever I make any video, you ask about this one. Even posting comments on videos I made 2 years ago, asking for me to make this video. So today, I bring you fan-made Sonic games. And I've searched through the internet to find 7 Sonic fan games that I believe haven't been talked about too much, except for one that I wanted to talk about. And I wanted to do this just to kind of change it up a little bit, make it interesting, especially since my friend Ant Dude just did a video on Sonic ROM hacks. So I wanted to make mine special and different, so let's get this started. First, let's talk about the only game on this list I wasn't able to play, and that's the Sonic Fan Remix, a beautiful recreation of Sonic the Hedgehog in HD, with a 2.5D style that I think looks gorgeous. I would have loved to play this, but sadly all I could do was take a look at it, but from what we can see, it looks like it plays really well, and it looks beautiful, obviously. And the music and sound effects are spot on, so I personally can't wait to actually get my hands on this one. Moving forward though, let's talk about the games I was actually able to get my hands on, starting with a fan remake of the deleted level Dust Hill Zone. And it's horrible. Yeah, it looks pretty, kind of, but the gameplay is atrocious since you get stuck on every little thing, causing you to slow down all the time, which is never a good thing in a Sonic game. Plus, there are a few holes that you can get stuck in and just can't get out of. Overall, it was a cool idea, but it just wasn't fun to play. This next game was one I was going to talk about and say how horrible it was and how much I hated it. And, well, then I realized that my footage got corrupted and I had to play the game again. And my second time playing through it, I actually liked it a bit more. Sonic Time Twisted is the game I'm talking about, and when I first played it, I hated it. The first level is way too difficult, and the main path the game kind of brings you on is extremely unforgiving compared to the secret path I found later on. It shoves you right into a pool of water and a ton of enemies, causing instant death and drowning. But after I found my way past this and started beating a few levels, I actually became a bit more interested in the game, but trust me, I still ain't praising it. After the first level, we get a bit of a cutscene, seeing Sonic face off with Metal Sonic and are thrown back into the game. The design of the levels are kind of all over the place, which caused me to get lost a lot or just thrown into death traps without seeing it coming. It does control well though, with the ability to charge your dash and stop on a dime. There wasn't much issues there. Plus, the game heavily takes from Sonic's CD, allowing you to switch from past to present by running fast enough through these signs, which I really liked and was my favorite part of the game. Time Twisted was an interesting experience, but something I would never go back to, especially if I had to play the first carnival level again. Too many weird bouncing areas and random pinball machines scattered around to make an enjoyable level. Just remember, if you play this one, it's no walk in the park. Next up is Sonic the Faded Hour, a game I'm a bit confused about, but nonetheless was a fun time. The game is stated in the intro that you can unlock abilities that you can equip onto Sonic and use, but since the feature wasn't in the demo I tried, it gave you loadouts with equipment already chosen for you. And overall, it did change up the gameplay a bit, allowing me to wall jump or get to different areas that I couldn't with other mechanics. Plus, there was also random side quests that you can do in levels that added a bit more to the standard Sonic gameplay. But this is where I started to get confused. When looking up the game, its description calls it a pseudo free-roaming game broken from the Metroid Castlevania mold. But overall, really just felt like a regular platforming Sonic game, so I'm not sure what to think. Plus, it boasted its storytelling ability over gameplay, with Sonic spending most of his time uncovering the mystery as to who murdered Tails. But I didn't see any of this stuff in the demo, or any storytelling of any kind actually. And if that's what you're boasting your game about, you'd think there would be a bit more of that in the demo. In the end though, it's kind of a basic Sonic fan game, blocky levels with loops and springs and a pretty cool inclusion of grinding and wall jumping, making it a bit different than the rest. Not bad, but nothing to blow your mind over. This next game is the last 2D game on the list, and probably my favorite game out of all of them. Like, I have over an hour's worth of gameplay footage because I didn't want to stop playing the game. The game I'm talking about is Sonic Chrono Adventure. Sonic Chrono Adventure is basically an open world Sonic game allowing you to run around an open world and explore different areas and cities. The plot has you traveling between past and present to figure out what exactly happened in the past to cause a huge catastrophe, though you aren't getting to go to the past on your own free will, at least at the start. Dr. Eggman has created a robot called the Dark Egg Owl to track you down and keep you busy until Eggman can hatch his plan to rule the world. Problem is, the Egg Owl goes out of control and gains the ability to teleport you through time. Shortly into the game, you're able to get one of the owl's feathers that makes it so you can travel through the rifts in time whenever you please, allowing you to explore the large hub world in both the past and the present. On top of all of this, there are also multiple items you can get throughout the game, and the only two I found while playing were the sword, which allowed you to cut down barriers and enemies if you want, and speed boots that allowed you to dash forward really fast, or more importantly, dash really high into the air to reach higher areas. This game really had an open world Metroidvania feel to it, unlike Time Twisted, and actually had a really good story that made me want to keep going on. I didn't beat the game obviously due to the fact I had plenty of other Sonic games to play, but this one I will be going back to for sure to continue to the end. Plus, for anyone interested, the creator of this game is actually working on another game that was just kickstarted called Spark the Electric Jester. If you want to take a look into it, that game also looks really fun, so I would recommend going and checking it out. Now let's talk about something in a completely different ballpark. I'm talking about 3D Sonic games, and for the most part, 3D Sonic games usually don't turn out that well. Sometimes you get a good one, but usually they're not that great. So fan-made versions should be fairly interesting. So, to start off this crazy mess, we're going to be talking about Sonic World. Sonic World is, well, I don't know the best way to describe it. It's really just Sonic the Hedgehog recreated for PC, but with one major difference. It allows for fan-created stages. The game comes with a few levels that are recreations of actual Sonic levels, but if you want, you can download levels other people have made and put them into the game to play yourself. But since they are fan-created, would you really want to do that? Truthfully though, some of them are actually pretty good, and some of them are just, well, geez. Overall, it's really nothing too exciting or mind-blowing, and it kinda controls like crap, but it's a cool idea, and I always like something that allows people to create their own content, so good on ya. The next game is Sonic 3D, and to be truthful, I thought this game was going to be garbage. Like, super duper garbage I can make fun of and rag about for a bit. And if I'd started the game playing as Sonic, I probably would've, but I actually started up the game as Mighty the Armadillo, and did pretty well. The game controls decently and has plenty of secrets to find, including Chaos Emeralds, though I didn't take the time to find all of them to see what would happen. It includes a good amount of levels and bosses to play through and really keeps the fast-paced vibe while still allowing some good platforming and fighting, unless you play as Sonic, who sadly has no lock-on for his attacks, making it impossible for him to hit anyone. While on the other side of the table, Mighty can smash the ground, sending out a shockwave causing everything around him to die. You could also play as Tails or Knuckles, but I really didn't take the time to play as them or test out how they are. The plot isn't anything too crazy, especially since it's kind of like the Sonic 3 and Knuckles story. Metal Sonic steals Master Emerald, Knuckles thinks Sonic took it, Sonic and Knuckles fight, Sonic convinces Knuckles it was Metal Sonic and Eggman who took the Emerald, and then we beat up Eggman. It was a fun experience, and I would definitely say try it out. Also, on a side note, it seems like there was going to be a mod for this game that recreated Sonic 06, but it was never released. Probably because they realized Sonic 06 was a horrible game and no one would play a fan-made version of it. And to finish off this fan-made games video with a bang, let's talk about a recently brought to light and well-known Sonic fan game, Sonic Dreams Collection. This game was released randomly, declaring it was filled with unreleased Sonic games that never came to light for one reason or another. So let's take a look at some of the beautiful magic we have in store for us. First off, we have Make My Sonic, which was exactly what it sounds like. Create your own Sonic character. So let's get at it, boys. First off, we gotta choose his leg size. So let's go for the super small and creepy style. And we'll match his arms and head to make them super small and creepy as well. There we go, super pretty. Now let's just make him original and orange and give him a sexy name like, Soul Roji Edge Kaiser the Supreme Cyborg Hedgehog. Best character ever. Copyrighted 2014, 15, 2009, don't steal. And my fan-made Sonic is complete. Just throw in some Sonic rings, put in some Sonic sexy pose, and take a Sonic picture for all my friends to see and laugh at. So after that, we can actually head into the next game called Eggman Origin, an MMORPG, and import our Sonic fan character into it and find out where Eggman came from and why our legs are so damn small. Sadly though, I didn't want to pay the $100 for the Dreamcast adapter, so we can't actually play this game. Now that all of that's out of the way, let's get into Sonic Movie Maker, where we can create our own homemade Sonic videos. Gotta start off simple though on your movie career. Let's start by throwing a hedgehog under a car a bit and then having him make love with a chow. Perfect masterpiece. Now let's offer the prom guests some ice cream and follow them back to their motel, because that's not creepy at all. Let's see what they're up to in their motel. Whoa, geez, better censor that for the little kiddies. But you know, Tails isn't having much fun, so let's give him a friend too. There we go, Tails and the creepy egg thing. You have made yourself one beautiful romantic comedy. P.S. Don't forget to burn down the motel before you enter your torture lab to feed Sonic until he Tails on cheats and on Mr. Egg with the Sonic, and then is birthed out of Sonic to be birthed again out of Rouge the Bat. Congrats! You just created your own Sonic movie to revile all the Sonic movies. Next is the Oculus Rift Sonic game, where you get to go on a date with Sonic. Are you ready for your very first kiss? No? Well, that's too bad. Stare into his soul and be one with Sonic. Be one with Sonic. Good, now let's just shut off the Dreamcast and never talk about this again. Yeah, don't ask me what Sonic Dreams Collection is, because, well, I don't want to answer that question. It's a weird game specifically made to feed off the idea that Sonic fans are weird creeps and to boost itself into popularity. Don't play Sonic Dreams Collection. Do yourself a favor and play Sonic Chrono Adventure or Sonic 3D, or just anything else. It's not worth your time and just weird, to be truthful. But that's not all. I've brought a good friend of mine along who knows a lot about Sonic to talk about his favorite Sonic fan game. Everyone, give a warm welcome to my good friend, Blade Blur.
Thanks for having me, Badman. Hello everyone, I am Blade Blur and I am a Sonic fan. Which doesn't mean much nowadays because of the drop of quality in the games themselves. But nevertheless, I still love Genesis games. What I even like more are those Genesis ROM hacks of all the Sonic games that are out there. Essentially, it's Mario Maker before Mario Maker was even a thing. Some of them are very simple, where they just change a character in a pre-existing game, but others change the whole concept of the game completely to make new experiences. But when it comes to the quintessential Sonic ROM hack for the Genesis, you cannot go wrong with Sonic Megamix. And yes, I actually own a physical copy of that. So, what makes it so good? Let's find out.
Sonic Megamix is a hack of the original game, but besides a fancy coat of paint and a revised level design, there is much more to see here. Sonic's moveset has expanded to feature his now infamous homing attack, as well as the modern classic Lightspeed Dash, and makes our spiny hero zoom through rings and blast Badniks in his way. Making for a very cool mechanic, especially in a 2D game, since it has never been done before, and quite frankly, I always look forward to see those stream of rings just so I can perform it. But even if that's not enough to entice you, there are also two additional characters to play as. Shadow the Hedgehog, and Mighty the Armadillo. No character before had such an unfitting name. Shadow also has Sonic's homing attack, but whenever enemies aren't around, he can also double jump. Mighty is more interesting since he can use the shield abilities from Sonic 3 and even store multiple ones in case he loses one with the nominal cost of a few rings. Each of the three characters play differently from each other, which makes going through the many revised levels quite the adventure. And those levels are long. Some can last upwards to 7 minutes. This is a marathon, not a sprint. But despite the length increase as well as the difficulty being jacked up, this is a really fun game. I wish there were less bugs, but at least it's a more stable game than the Sega CD version. I know that in that version Tails and Knuckles are playable, but I'd rather choose the stable Genesis version over it any day of the week.
With fresh level design, new characters to play as, and great music, there is no denying that Sonic Mega Mix is a great tack. In fact, if you're tired of Sonic 1 and finished it over and over, this will definitely give you a lot of challenge because it's essentially the hard mode of the same game. So I highly recommend it. If you want to play it, just Google it, you'll find it. And thanks for having me, Badman. Back to you.
And that's it for today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this fan-made games video. It's been in the works for a long time. There's just a lot of Sonic fan games to go through for me to find some that I really wanted to talk about. I'll probably make another one of these in the future, like a Sonic Fan Games Part 2, but until then, I'll have to think of something else. So if you want to help me, post in the comments below what fan game videos you would love to see, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. Until then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Welcome to another episode of Fan Made Games, and this week I was going to talk about Mario Fan Games, but just like last time I got sidetracked by a side series, and now we're talking about Super Smash Bros. Fan Games. And well, I thought I was only going to be able to talk about like 3 games for this episode, but I did some digging and I actually found a good chunk of Super Smash Bros. Games, surprisingly, including a 3D one. So, let's quit the chit-chat and hop straight into some Super Smash Bros. Fan games. And for the first time ever, we're starting with a 3D game. Super Smash Battle is the first and only 3D game on this list. And to be truthful, I don't really know if it counts as a Smash fan game. But it has Super Smash in the title and Nintendo characters, so why not? The game actually has a story where Dr. Pigo Robo is trying to destroy all the consoles in the world so he can make his own that would rule the world, and it would require people to insert money for the machine to play. What a horrible idea indeed. Just imagine.
I was so close! Ma'am! 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 I need more money for Candy Crush! I'm on level 249! I'm so close! It's gotta end soon!
Thank the Lord our gaming world is not like that. But to stop Dr. Pigo Robo, all the world's best mascots got together to destroy this menace. Some of these characters include your standard Nintendo guys, Conker, MegaMan, Rystar, Banjo, Bomberman, and even Crash Bandicoot. There's also an unlockable character that I believe is Dr. Pigo Robo himself and requires you to beat the story with every character. But I ain't got no time for that, especially when this game really isn't that great. Smash Bros. Battle is a 3-dimensional fighting game with a health bar, meaning that you just have to beat the crap out of your opponents until they die instead of launching them out of an arena. You can attack and use super moves, but that's about it for your moveset, making the game a very simplistic experience. And by very simplistic, I mean the best strategy I found was playing as Bomberman and smashing the attack button, since doing this would drop a bomb on the ground, knocking your opponents down, and repeating this would sometimes lock them into an endless loop of never being able to get up. Overall, it's a cool idea, it just kind of falls flat in every aspect possible. But hey, it's a 3D game, and that shit ain't easy to program, so I'll give them props for that. And it's a fun game to play before moving on to better Smash Bros. Fan games. And well, with that being said, let's move on to Super Smash Bros. Slam, the first game in our 2D journey. Smash Bros. Slam is actually the only 2D game on this list that isn't all that great. It's still a fun game, don't get me wrong, but it's not really close to completion, and it's very easy to win. The game has a few modes, but most of them are locked and only 2 of them can actually be used, which are Event Mode and Melee Mode, and you'll want to head straight to Event Mode since that's how you unlock things, and starting off the game only has Sonic unlocked as a playable character. As you complete new events, you'll unlock new assist trophies, characters, and levels, including Link, Ichigo, and Goku. And well, yeah, that's it. All the other characters can't be unlocked, and if they can, I have not found a single way to do it yet. The gameplay is also pretty bad, mostly relying on assist trophies since they do a crazy amount of damage, especially the Heartless, which can bring someone from 0 to 500%, making for some easy knockouts. Plus, getting someone locked in a punch combo is a pretty easy feat to accomplish. It's not really a game I would recommend going out of your way to find and play, especially since almost every other 2D Smash Bros. Game surpasses this one by miles, in every aspect possible. So, moving forward, we're going to be talking about a game that looks like it was designed to be played on one of these. Well, not one of these, but the original Game Boy. I don't have an original Game Boy, so I thought holding up my SP would be good enough. Plus, it's got explosions on it. I was the cool kid on the block. Super Smash Land is designed to look and feel like it was made for the old school Game Boy, bringing you that awesome green tint and some pretty bad looking sprites and kick-ass chiptune music. The game has an arcade mode, endless mode, and versus mode. Arcade mode puts you in a classic match fighting against enemies until you get to the end where you fight MegaMan as a final boss. The game starts with 4 characters, Mario, Kirby, Link, and Pikachu, but there are 2 more characters you can unlock in multiple unlockable stages. To unlock MegaMan, you must beat Classic Mode with all 4 characters that you start with, and to unlock Vaporeon, you must beat her in Saffron City when she appears. Having these cool requirements to unlock new characters really reminds me of the good old-fashioned Smash Bros. Days, where you had to do crazy stuff to unlock characters. The controls are a bit weird, seeing as one button makes you jump and the other button is for your special moves, meaning you have no regular attacks. If it were me, I would have made one button attack and the other button special moves and just make the up arrow jump. But I guess that's just how this game is played, meaning you really can only fight using your specials, but giving it a limited feel does make it feel more like a Game Boy game. Smash Land is definitely a great experience that you should try, but it's not something you'll want to spend hours of your time on for sure. Next, I'm going to be talking about 2 games at the same time, since they're basically the same game, and from what I can see, they're made by 2 different people. But seriously, it has the same menu, the same events, the same fighting mechanics, the same sprites. The only difference is that one game has more characters. And by I mean more characters, I mean a lot of more characters. I wrote out a list I was going to read to you guys and make it this long, drawn-out joke thing, but well, there's just too many. Here, just look at this picture and you'll see what I mean. There's like every Sonic character, multiple different anime characters, Steve from Minecraft, and the bears from Five Nights at Freddy's. Like, why? Why do we need these things in Super Smash Bros. Games? Both these games are called Super Smash Bros. Rumble and Super Smash Bros. Universe. The first being the one with less characters and the later being the one with the giant list of fighters. To unlock these fighters, you must enter an event mode and complete challenges, which usually require you to beat some enemies. Doing so will then unlock that character for you to free play with. And unlike the last couple games, this one actually plays like a Smash Bros. Game, giving you standard attacks, smash attacks, and special attacks. This allows you to chain some cool combos, but it's still pretty hard at times since there's really no visual feedback if you are hitting someone. You can kind of just be inside someone and still deal damage to them even if your kicks are flying way past them. But just like I normally do, I found the one character with the brokenest move ever and just did that over and over and over again to win. This move was Donkey Kong's side move. Sadly, the game has some glitches, making it so I couldn't unlock some characters, and well, Donkey Kong looks like a stoner. Just look at that head bob. Up next, we have the game that I enjoyed the most on this list, and that game is Super Smash Bros. Crusade. The game includes a very well done roster with not too many crazy characters, but just enough to make you happy. It also allows for online play and up to 6-player battles, making for some hectic fights. On top of that, the animation for all of the characters is amazing and the levels are varied, look beautiful, and are really fun to play on. Plus, characters react very well to being hit, showing stun animations, really letting you know when you hit someone. If you want a really authentic Smash feeling game, this is one I would recommend for sure because I had a ton of fun with it. Even though I expected the game we're going to talk about next to be my favorite, this one really blew me away in all aspects, and that's what made this one the best from my opinion. It'd be nice if it had a classic mode or some kind of story mode, but the versus mode is great. Feels like you're actually playing Smash, especially with the ability to change all the settings from stock to time or which items you want on. But now it's time for the main course, the game that you've been waiting for me to talk about. Or that you haven't been waiting for me to talk about. I just kind of assume that you guys know these games I'm talking about and know what game is going to be coming next. Even though in reality you probably have no clue what I'm talking about or what game that I'm about to talk about. Anyways, next is Super Smash Flash 2. In an internet website far, far away, there was a game, a masterful game released in 2006 and gained many awards. This game was known only as Super Smash Flash. And as time passes, a sequel was to be born. But sadly, it was not to be. Until a reboot, yes! Super Smash Flash 2 was born anew as a reboot from the original game, bringing fantastic graphics, online play, plenty of great characters, settings, and areas to play in. It was the perfect homage to Smash Bros. Now that I'm done being weird, Super Smash Flash 2 is a reboot of the original game and upgrades everything about that game in every way, shape, and form, and is one fantastic experience. The game does feel a bit slow, but I feel like that may have to do with my computer. But overall, I think Super Smash Flash 2 is a fantastic game. I mean, just look at this. I have 4 anime-ish characters fighting it out in an anime arena. That's what I love about these fan games the most. It gives us these characters that we would have never seen in Smash Bros. Otherwise. Pretty much all of these games were pretty good experiences, and I didn't find myself loathing playing any of them pretty much. But I do have to say, go out and play Super Smash Flash 2 and Super Smash Bros. Crusade. These 2 games definitely deserve the attention. And well, just like always, you can find the links to all of these games in the description below if you wish to play any of them. Also, don't forget to smack that like button and share the video around, and if you want to check out my Let's Play channel, you can, well, go ahead and do that, I guess. But until next time, I'll see you all in the next video. Welcome to another episode of Fan-Made Games, and this week we're doing something brand new for the very first time. splitting an episode into 2 parts. I'm doing this for the fact that there are a lot of good and bad fan-made Mega Man games that I want to talk about, and splitting it up into 2 parts makes it easier for me to not want to kill myself. On that note, I am also very bad at Mega Man games, and I wasn't able to beat any of these games, but I did give them all a very long period of time, giving each game at least an hour or more of playtime. So I was able to check out all of these games very well, and I'm excited to show you guys some awesome Mega Man games and share with you some of the other not so awesome Mega Man games. So with that out of the way, let's hop straight into some fan-made Mega Man games. To start off, let's talk about a game that is a lot different than the rest, which is called Launch the Drake. A pretty simple game where you fly the Drake through enemies to try and reach the end of the level. And well, it's really not that great. Don't get me wrong, it's not a bad game, but when compared to the rest of the games on this list, it's hard for it to stand up. The controls are the main reason for this distaste for this game, since it feels like I'm playing Flappy Bird in all the wrong ways. Unless you're holding the up arrow, your ship will slowly accelerate and plummet into the ground in a massive fiery explosion. But if you hold up for just a tad bit too long, you'll rush straight up into the sky, leaving the screen into a giant explosion as well. It makes aiming and shooting at enemies while doing this a bit difficult. Yes, with enough practice and time, you can learn your way around the controls and get used to it and have a fun time. I guess. If you're interested in what you see, I would say check it out. Just remember the controls are really wonky and hard to get used to. Next, we actually have a browser game, an online one at that too. MegaMan RPG is an online game that feels a lot like Pokemon, to be truthful. It's a turn-based battle game where you control Mega Man robots and fight other Mega Man robots, each having their own attacks, weaknesses, and strengths. The game has 38 robots you can obtain for use in battle and 3 characters you can play as, or in Pokemon terms, 3 different trainers you can be. It's actually a really interesting game that has online leaderboards and a ton of people playing. Surprisingly, from what I can see though, you can't play against other people online, just play the over 1,000 dynamically generated missions. I thought it was a really cool idea having a Pokemon-style Mega Man game, since a lot of the Mega Man ideas fit well into an RPG-type game. Next up is Mega Man Eternal. An interesting game for sure, but truthfully, the one I spent the least time with. I couldn't really get into it and found it too hard, like even harder than all the other hard games I played. Plus, the art style was just off-putting. I could tell there was a lot of effort put into this game, and I respect that for sure, but I don't know, compared to the other games, this one just felt lacking to me. Out of all of the levels in the game, I only played 3 before deciding to move on. First was the intro level, obviously, which took me a while to beat since you have to fight a red devil at the start, and every time you lose, you have to re-watch a cutscene. But once he's defeated, you can move into the level selection area. I started with Primal Man, which is just a rail level having you ride a platform for the level, shooting straight for a while until you eventually get to some spikes that don't give you much time to react to and die, causing you to have to restart the whole rail shooter again. Next, I tried Illusion Man, which was pretty cool. It had you traveling through a map while different things kept changing on you. 1-ups turned into enemies, flowers turned into spikes, and floors disappeared from under you. Enemy placement is pretty mean at times though, but that seemed to be a main issue with most of these Mega Man games. The checkpoint system in the game was probably the best out of all of the games I played though, not being stupidly bad like some games were. This one gave you some good checkpoints decently into the level. It wasn't a bad game, I just didn't get too interested into it. Next up is Mega Man Revolution. The last game on the list I didn't play that long, having me play only 2 levels. The first level I tried was Sandman, which was like impossible, having enemies spawn right under your feet, making it impossible to kill them without being hit. Eventually I got further into the level, but died to a pit of spikes, giving me a game over. So I decided to move on to Blast Man. At first, I thought the level would be filled with explosions and stuff, but it was actually filled with speakers for some reason. And surprisingly, I actually made it to the boss, but then proceeded to get dunked on pretty hard. Blastman will follow you around, dropping bombs right on your feet that instantly explode, making it almost impossible to dodge. I was barely able to get rid of half of his health on my best run before getting a game over. After the defeat, I decided to move on to the next game and come back when I felt better about it, so I hit the save button and the game crashed. Yay. After finishing crying over losing all of my save data on the last game, I moved on to MegaMan Super Fighting Robots. And this game probably had the second weirdest group of robot masters to fight, giving us enemies like Wizard Man, Trash Man, Soak Man, Coal Man, Axe Man, and Dagger Man. But names don't mean anything because each of these robot masters had really colorful and well-designed levels. Wizard Man had a beautiful purple level with disappearing platforms, pits that brought you to the ceiling, flying books, and other magic enemies. Coal Man's level was filled with exploding platforms and fire, while Dagger Man's level was really sci-fi with wireframes everywhere and teleporting crystals. Trash Man just had garbage everywhere. Axe Man's level was an awesome red and gold color with red axes everywhere, and Soak Man's level actually used water effects really well. It was an all-around really good game that looked beautiful and played really well, and one I would recommend for sure. Next is another browser-based game called Roko-chan, which is basically a gender-swapped Mega Man and has a lot of your standard robot masters like Volcano Man, Forest Man, Jet Man, Lightning Man, and wait a minute, Hockey Man? Well, you can't get any more Canadian than that, can ya, eh? And well, this is another one of those MegaMan fan games that is actually really well done. Each level is designed very well, giving you time to see what's coming up, but still giving a challenge. It's a hard thing to do in a game, and this one does it so well. Well, besides Jetman's level, that level is a platforming hellscape. Each level, though, gives some challenge, but doesn't throw too much at you. And this was actually a game where I beat one of the robot masters, that being Rolling Man. The other levels are really good too, having you walk on light bulbs that glow when enemies attack them, outrunning an erupting volcano, outrunning a boulder Indiana Jones style, and having you fight a fridge. It's an interesting experience for sure, and you don't even have to download it, so I would say try this one out for sure. Next up is Mega Man Day in the Limelight 2, which is actually a very interesting spin on the formula, allowing you to play as robot masters to take down other robot masters. It's a really cool idea that I enjoyed. I played through a few levels till I found myself getting stuck here and not being able to do anything without shutting the game down. And after that, I decided to stop playing. But I would say, don't let that stop you from trying this one. I'd say give the series a try and see what you think. I'm pretty sure there are 3 of them to pick from too. And now we're moving on to some of the very interesting games, which includes Mega Man 2.5D, which has you playing Mega Man but in a much different art style, giving everything a 3D look, which looks absolutely great, and even takes this art style to the next level by using it to change camera angles while you climb a ladder or turn a corner. It's a really cool idea that was implemented very well into the game. The levels themselves, though, aren't really anything to write home about. Yeah, they all look good, but none of them stand out as a well-designed level. They all look cool due to the 2.5D look they have, but when it comes down to it, if they were regular 2D levels, they're nothing special. I wouldn't recommend this game, but as a visual experience, I would say it may be worth it. Next is the final game we will be talking about today, and I thought I should give each part a longer, more exciting game to talk about. And for this part, I decided that last game to talk about would be Mega Man Revenge of the Fallen, a giant Mega Man game that had been in the works for a long time, since 2008 to be exact. And you'll see why soon. Revenge of the Fallen includes 20 levels plus a secret level, 3 rush upgrades, 7 Mega Man upgrades, a ton of branching paths in all of the levels giving you many ways to beat them, and 3 bounty hunters that appear randomly throughout the 10 Robot Master stages. It's a massive game that is designed extremely well. The story explains that Wily has learned how to revive all the Robot Masters Mega Man has defeated, so we set off to end his plans. The intro stage eases you into the style of the game and has you fight a pretty easy and yet awesome boss in the end. After that, we get full access to the level select screen, allowing us to pick from 10 Robot Masters, including Centaur Man, Magma Man, Magnet Man, Stone Man, Spark Man, Tornado Man, Star Man, Toad Man, Pharaoh Man, and my favorite, Yamato Man. Each of these Robot Masters levels are crafted extremely well, with love in every inch of the design. It isn't no walk in the park though. A lot of these levels are still very challenging. Not cheap, but challenging, and that's something I can get behind. Out of all of the games mentioned, this is one you should try for sure. It's a love letter to classic Mega Man games, and the 6 years that have been put into making this game really show. I would say this is a fan game you cannot miss. And that is all we have time for today, sadly. But don't worry, next week I will be back with part 2 of fan-made Mega Man games, with some more stuff like Battle Network, some more cool 2D games, 3D games, and well, some special games too. So, get excited for that, and if you want to play any of the games I mentioned in today's video, don't forget to check the description below for all the links. And until then, I'll see you all in the next video. And we are back with part 2 of Mega Man Fan Games. And let's just say, this week we have a interesting list of games to go over, including Flash games, 3D games, and Mega Man Battle Network games. But to start off this list, let's go into a game that's just beginning production called Tuttle's Legendary Travels. This is Tuttle's Legendary Travels. Not too impressive, right? Well, that's because this is only a demo to show off the basic engine of the game, nothing more. It's not really a game, more along the lines of showing off what the creators of the game are capable of, and to show off some sort of progress in their ventures. It's a very ambitious project, so I would say this is definitely something to keep your eyes on. Now let's move on to the fan game with the weirdest Robot Masters of all time. Mega Man rocks. If you don't believe me, there are Policeman, Repo Man, Fireman, Repairman, Doorman, Snowman, Anchorman, and Hitman. All extremely weird Robot Masters. But you know what? Probably the most beautifully designed levels out of any of the fan games I've played. Each level is beautifully crafted to really match the Robot Master you are fighting. From Policeman's level being covered in police lights or Doorman's level looking like a hotel. Each level has its own unique design to it that none of the other games had. Most of them felt like Mega Man textures with just some walls and textures moved around, but this feels like a handcrafted fan game with love in every inch. The gameplay is also fantastic, with plenty of enemies, challenging platforming, and everything else you would expect from a Mega Man game. It really was a surprise for me, since at first glance I was like, great, some fan game with horrible masters and probably horrible gameplay. But it turned out fantastic. And with that out of the way, I think it's time for us to move on to the last classic Mega Man style fan game on this list. And that is Mega Man Unlimited. Mega Man Unlimited at first just felt like yet another classic Mega Man game, but after spending some time with it, the designs of each level really gave it a unique personality, and a lot of the Robot Masters looked really cool, especially Tri-Nitro Man and Jetman, which were my 2 favorites. Plus, this game probably has my second favorite level designs, Jetman, for one, has a really beautiful night level that has some fantastic runway background designs. Rainbow Man, on the other hand, has a very Quickman-esque level design that is just so trippy, but fun at the same time, especially with the turning lasers and rainbow prisms. I loved it. On the other hand, though, we have levels like Glue Man that made me want to shoot myself, since you can only jump since you get stuck to the ground, making some platforming a pain in the butt. Overall, though, it's another good MegaMan fan game with some really beautiful levels. And now it's time for the weird stuff, because here we have MegaMan 8-Bit Deathmatch, a Doom-style shooter that has you playing as Mega Man in a deathmatch type scenario. At first, when I got it, it was titled Mega Man Doom, so I thought it would be a Doom mod but with Mega Man skins, but I was completely wrong. This game is actually a very well done shooter, giving you mouse control, power-ups, and a pretty well done AI. But that's not even the best part. What's better is that it has an online mode too, allowing you to match up with other people around the world and kick their butts. I wasn't able to test out this mode, sadly, so I just stuck to the campaign, which had you fighting robot masters and other enemies in an arena shooter. It was a lot of fun and I enjoyed it. Searching through each map for the best weapons and health caps to help you win each round was great and challenging. It was a really fun experience that I enjoyed and may even go back to at some point to try the online and get farther into the game itself at some point, since I got stuck on a certain boss while playing for this video. But speaking of online, there was another game I played that I thought really sucked until I started to learn how to play it. Mega Man Battle Network Zero Crisis isn't exactly a Battle Network game. It's a Battle Network fighter hybrid, having you input combos to activate special moves. But the game at no point explains this to you, so the whole time I was playing my first game through arcade mode, I was only shooting, and then pressing every button on the keyboard hoping it would do something else. To actually figure out how to do anything, I had to go online and search up the controls because there was nothing in the game to help you out. So after searching around for a bit, I found each character had a certain combination of button presses that needed to be made to actually do any of their special moves. And as soon as I learned that, the game became a fresh new experience that I loved. I ended up beating arcade mode, unlocking some of the over 40 unlockable characters, and even playing some online, which I think I had way too much fun with since I was dominating everyone. Playing against people with rankings higher than mine by thousands of points and still coming out on top, or beating someone playing as my main character and them asking for a rematch and beating them again even worse, makes me feel so good. That's probably why I had so much fun with this game. It was a surprise to me that I ended up being so good at it. And I sunk so much time into it. I didn't even expect something like this to be enjoyable. And with so much content to unlock, you could spend so much time on this game. It's something that I would highly recommend you check out, but beforehand, remember to go online and look up the controls for whatever you find out your favorite character is. But moving on, the other Battle Network game I played was a bit more classic, actually, feeling a lot like the Battle Network games on the Game Boy Advance, having you run around as your NetNavi and getting into random battles and using cards to activate moves in a very turn-based style, and then while not playing as a NetNavi, playing as your character in the real world. It played very well and did a really great job of teaching you the controls and how to play, which I really liked since I hadn't played a Battle Network game in a long time. And even so, when I did play it, I probably played it for like 5 minutes, so I had no clue what I was doing. I played pretty far into the game, fighting a couple enemies and losing battles to them, but thankfully when I lost to them, the game would restart me right at the start of that battle and only have to fight them again. But eventually I reached an area where I had to fight someone to fix an elevator, and I lost, which gave me a game over, something no other loss had done while playing the game. This brought me back to the main menu and left me with only an option for starting a new game. So I guess if you do decide to try this game, it would probably be best to save often, since that was something I didn't do at all since I didn't think I needed to, and I didn't really notice an option for it at all anyways. Next is probably the weirdest fan game I played, titled MegaMan Sprite Game. From my understanding, this game is based off of a Mega Man comic and has every character having the weirdest faces for some reason. The game itself at first was trash, but grew on me, so just give me a bit to explain it. At first, it seems like a really badly put together game with horrible RPG elements and a dumb story about killing ghosts. But in the end, well, some things changed and some didn't. For instance, the garbage RPG elements changed a bit, adding in new moves and whatnot, but overall, in general, it was still pretty bad. The story kind of picks up, giving some weird JRPG-style plot twists, but overall, the most important thing here is that a lot of the story gave me a good laugh fairly often. And the final levels were actually designed kind of well, with a really cool ball pit / Chuck E. Cheese vibe level in the very end of the game that I thought was a very cool idea and I would love to see explored in more games in the future. But there is an issue with the game though, and that is that it pulls a really dick move halfway through the game. At the start, there's a sign that says, "Don't walk on the grass and stay on the path." A little while in, usually after you know you've already walked on the grass. Plus, you have to walk on the grass to even get to the sign in the first place. So if you step off the path at any point in the game, you get thrown in jail halfway through the game and get the bad ending, meaning you have to restart the whole game over again and make sure you stay on the path. It was really annoying and almost made me quit the game, but thankfully I got past that and beat it, and actually kind of enjoyed it, even though overall it was still a kind of dumb game. The last game on this list is Mega Man 3D 2, the only true 3D Mega Man game on this list, and it's perfect. The game drops you in an open world to travel and explore, and at first, the controls are a bit difficult to get a handle on, but once you have them down, you are good to go. The game has you tracking down rogue robot masters to take them down, and at first you just need to defeat 4, which I did, leading to a few boss battles, and it was a great time. Shooting enemies, platforming through dungeons, killing bosses, gaining new abilities, then using said abilities, and exploring the hub world was all great fun. I never beat the game though, since after beating a few very hard bosses, the game informed me to beat a ton of more robot masters to continue on through the story. And I was just done recording gameplay at that time and was getting kind of tired. But I may go back to it sometime and explore what other awesome abilities and areas there are to find that I have yet to explore. It was a really well done 3D game that I was surprised by the quality of it for a fan game. It was put together really well. There are a few ways it could get better, like a lock-on system or another way of controlling the game like with a mouse, but other than that, it was great fun and definitely something I would say give a try if you're a Mega Man fan or a fan of 3D platforming shooters. And sadly, we come to an end of the Mega Man Fan Games series. And I know there are some Mega Man games that I didn't mention for one reason or another, so if you feel like I missed one that I should have talked about, post it in the comments below, and maybe I'll make a part 3. Who knows? One day in the future, possibly. Also, if you want to try any of these games, the links will be in the description. Trust me, you'll probably enjoy at least one of them. And if you have any ideas for my next video, post them in the comments below too, because I read all of the comments. You guys are the best, and I love reading them. Even if they tell me you hate my voice, or I look ugly, or I'm creepy, I read them. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Hello and welcome to another episode of Fan Made Games. and I decided after the announcement of Pokemon Sun and Moon, it was finally time to finish this video up that I've been working on for a long time. The Pokemon community is one crazy community, making tons of awesome fan content like art, comics, custom Pokemon, and video games. So I think it's time to hop into some fan-made Pokemon games. I want to start off with the most simplistic and yet interesting game in this first part, seeing as the rest of the games on this list are going to follow kind of your basic Pokemon rules, while this one takes a totally different route. Pokemon Island throws you on an island filled with every Pokemon you can imagine, and has you battle your way through a Pokemon League to increase your rank. As you enter tournaments and defeat enemies in singles and doubles matches, you will increase in rank, giving you access to new areas to explore, allowing you to find new types of Pokemon to catch. Each area has its own special flair to it, from a lava-filled cave to a mystical forest, and each area has Pokemon in it that fits that environment. As you train your Pokemon, you can take them to battle other trainers, win tournament matches, train them with mini-games, or trade them for other Pokemon. Plus, if you get bored of fighting and battling, there are also other things you can do to tide yourself over, including a game corner with slots and other gambling type games, shops to buy items and even Pokemon, or even play a custom Pokemon version of Triple Triad. And nothing is better than Triple Triad. Plus, at the start of the game, you get to choose between 12 characters and 9 starter Pokemon, allowing you to really play how you want. Next up is a game I really couldn't enjoy, sadly enough, but don't let that drive you away from trying it. The game I'm talking about is Pokemon Rejuvenation, which is heavily based off of Pokemon Reborn, a game I decided to not go over. Pokemon Reborn, for those of you who don't know, was a game developed by members of the Pokemon Reborn forum, wishing for a more challenging Pokemon game. And that's just what they did, making gym leaders have crazy strategies and styles that would cause you to really think from a professional level on how to defeat them. And Rejuvenation took this idea and added on to it. Thankfully though, Pokemon Rejuvenation gives the option of difficulty to the player, allowing you to choose from 3 different difficulties: Easy, Reborn difficulty, or Nuzlocke. I myself, being only a decent Pokemon player, decided to pick the Easy mode just to enjoy the story of the game, and well, things didn't go so well. First off, the story takes a weird turn very quickly, with your mom working with some bad guys and a bomb on a boat, and on top of that there's tentacles all over the place and a lot of fourth wall breaking. You know, just a lot of crap I was having trouble comprehending. And then once the game actually starts, well, that's when the trouble happened. After you escape the boat you're on, you end up in a city and are told to explore and defeat the first gym leader. But the gym leader isn't at the gym. You have to go find him or her around town. Problem is, the town is a maze of apartments and roads that I can't find my way around, so I'm going through apartments, fighting people and winning sometimes and losing other times. I was able to find a place that gave out what seemed to be side quests, but I just didn't want to waste my time on that at the moment so I could focus on moving the story forward. But then the unthinkable happens. I enter an apartment just like any of the others I've been searching through to try and find the gym leader, except I bump into a trainer who tells me he will destroy me with his elite team of Pokemon. The battle starts and I'm like, oh look, cool, he's got 3 Pokemon versus my 1, maybe I'll have a small chance. Until the dude slam dunks his level 76 Alakazam all over my poor level 12 Charmander. And I don't even know what his other 2 Pokemon are. Like, why is there a level 76 dude in the first town? After that, my hopes were crushed, and I decided continuing to explore for the gym leader was a waste of time and to move on to the next game. And move on I did to Pokemon Gray Topaz, a game with a darker story. Since your mother left you to join the Elite Four, you have secluded yourself inside your room and never leave. But eventually your dad decides to kick you out and give you a Pokemon in hopes that you'll start your journey and not be a lazy slouch. And after choosing from 15 starters, including all the Pokemon from Red/Blue up to White/Black, you get to fight your rivals, and they're quite rude. Like, they act all nice when I battle them, but at the end when I beat them, the nice person whispers under their breath that I'm a piece of shit. Which, isn't really cool, but, I beat them pretty bad, so I guess it's fair. And after some traveling, I meet my first boss who kicks my butt, so I had to grind for a while, getting 4 Pokemon to level 9 to beat him, and the 2 other bosses from the evil organization that followed afterwards. And after saving the gym leader, it was time to get my first badge. Too bad I never got it. Yeah, the first gym leader ripped through me. Even with the fact I had a flying Pokemon to take on his grass Pokemon, I still lost. Overall, it was a very interesting game that I enjoyed, and if you aren't afraid of a decent challenge, this game is for you. Plus, on top of what I mentioned, from what I can read and see, there's also side quests to get legendaries and post-game content which could have you playing for a while, even after beating the Elite Four. Plus, the graphics are also pretty nice, I guess. The next game is an interesting one called Pokemon Uranium, which introduces a new world and new type of Pokemon called Nuclear to the game. But just a heads up, it is currently still in beta, so not everything is complete. But if you want a real dark story, this may be the Pokemon for you, seeing as your mom dies within the first 10 seconds of the game in a power plant meltdown, and your dad leaves you to search the world for your dead mom, leaving you alone with your old aunt who is now kicking you out because she's poor. That's some dark stuff right there. But as I stated before, there is a new type in this game known as Nuclear, though from what I played I didn't find any of them, but I'm not surprised because from what I looked up there are only 11 Nuclear Pokemon out of a Pokedex of 151 Pokemon, and 8 of the Nuclear Pokemon are just Nuclear variants of Pokemon that are already in the game, since once they're near enough nuclear waste they will change. Then you can catch them though, but you risk a disobedient Pokemon that may even attack its trainer. But there are 3 Pokemon that are nuclear type that don't have this trait. The first being a nuclear version of Eevee called Nucleon, which evolves into this form if you have a nuclear Pokemon in your party when Eevee hits level 20. Hazman, a little guy that wears a hazmat suit from the looks of it, and from the description, eats nuclear waste and can even clean up a hazardous area. And lastly, the legendary Pokemon of this game, Urain, which was created by man and must consume nuclear waste or it will power down. But sadly, this Pokemon isn't in the game yet since we are still in the beta. From what I played though, it was a pretty interesting game with a mix of Fakemon and real Pokemon and a pretty nice in-game graphical style. But also being truthful, I think the battle user face could use some work, and the Fakemon in the game are kind of just meh in my opinion. But if you are looking for an easier Pokemon game with some cool new ideas and a new world to explore, put Uranium on your list because I was able to wipe the floor with everyone I passed, even the first gym leader, with just my starter Pokemon. Next up is Pokemon Insurgence, another Pokemon game with a new type of Pokemon, but I'll get to that in a minute. Pokemon Insurgence has a few interesting options off the bat. The first allowing you to choose a more friendly story or a darker story where people will die in the dark story. There's also multiple options for different ways to play like Nuzlocke and more, which gives some replayability, but let's talk about the new type of Pokemon this game brings to the table. Once starting up the game, the professor will offer you some Pokemon stating that they must go to someone or they will be left to die, since they are special types known only to a certain island, and these are known as Delta Pokemon. Basically a Pokemon with a different typing than its original counterpart. For example, out of the starters we can choose from, we have Delta Bulbasaur, a fairy psychic type, Delta Squirtle, a dark fighting type, and my favorite that I chose, Delta Charmander, a ghost dragon type. And there are more of these throughout the game, including versions of Sunkern, Gardevoir, Scyther, Weezing, Muck, Snorlax, and more. It's a really interesting idea that makes for some awesome Pokemon to catch and play with. And on top of these Pokemon, they also added some new Mega evolutions, though some look meh while others look awesome. For example, Mega Marowak is probably the best idea I have ever seen, while Mega Feraligatr and Mega Miltank almost look like the same Pokemon. But I guess you win some and you lose some when it comes to these things. The gameplay, on the other hand, is pretty basic and feels just like a normal Pokemon game. Besides the fact that you can have Pokemon follow you around, and in battles, buffs and debuffs actually show up on the screen, which was a really cool idea I enjoyed that I hope future Pokemon games may include. This way, when I get sand thrown in my eyes, I can actually see how bad my chances of hitting my opponent really are. Next, we have Pokemon Sage, a game with only Fakemon and some amazing gameplay. The first thing you'll notice starting up the game is how beautiful it is. First, seeing a gorgeous cutscene followed by an overworld art style that's just sublime. The game is created by the people on 4chan of the VP thread and have done a fabulous job, I must say. Just looking through the list of Fakemon in this game, you can see the talent and thought that went into every single one of these Pokemon, and they all look just so cool, the starters and legendaries especially. And their in-game sprites are just as well designed, plus being able to have any Pokemon follow behind you is a huge plus. Not really, but I just love how cute it is, and this game gets a thumbs up from me just for that. On the other hand, it gets a thumbs down though, since the first Pokemon I walked into, Kapig, decided to throw sand in my face until I couldn't hit him anymore and he just destroyed me. But don't worry, I got my revenge. The new overworld to explore is also really interesting, being based off of real-world areas like South and Central America, giving a real wide range of areas you can visit. This is one game I'm probably going to go back to eventually when I get the chance, because I actually really like Fakemon, and this game does them really well. So if you're like me and that's what you're searching for, I would advise trying out this one. Now for the last game on this part, and probably the best one in my opinion, which is Pokemon Ethereal Gates, a game that you can tell is built from the ground up with passion and love. Starting the game, you play as a character that has no real interest in Pokemon, but after being dragged along by a friend, you quickly start to love Pokemon and the adventure it brings, setting you on your way to train, beat gym leaders, stop Team Mythos from destroying the world, and maybe even find a legendary Pokemon that can travel between the world of the living and the world of the dead. Graphically, the game looks brilliant with its own design, much different than anything else I've seen. A newly designed user face that works like a charm, a rocking fresh soundtrack to keep you battling on, a beautiful overworld based on New Zealand, and some awesome new Fakemon. Truthfully, I think this may be the best Pokemon game I have ever played, with outstanding sprite animations and even some surprises like losing to your rival in the first battle, which I think is a better idea that makes me want to better myself so I can defeat him next time we meet. But there are a few downfalls at the moment since we are playing a demo. First off, there are no battle animations, but that is because they took them out to replace the generic Pokemon Essentials battle animations to create their own that will look much better. So hopefully we will see those in a new demo. And lastly, the game gets kind of laggy at times, but again, this is due to RPG Maker XP not performing well on current generations of computers. But they are working on a fix for this issue, so hopefully with those two things out of the way, we can have one of the best Pokemon games ever made in the future. But that is everything for this video. And don't forget to come back next week for part 2 of Pokemon Fan Games, because there is some very interesting stuff in there. And don't forget, I make new content every Tuesday and Friday, so don't forget to subscribe and come back every week for new content. But until then, I'll see you all in the next video. Hello and welcome to another episode of Fan Made Games, and this week we're talking about more Pokemon games. That's right, and you know what that means? Tons of different stuff to talk about today. Like different things, like fighting games and 3D games and gross stuff, so yeah. Let's just kind of hop into the thick of things. Starting off, we have Pokemon Go Drop, which plays a lot like what I would love any actual Pokemon game to be like. And by that, I mean having multiple choices in how you play the game. In the actual Pokemon universe, there are tons of professions like Pokemon Trainer, Nurse, Professor, and more. And this game allows you to be any of those things. And the first few choices you make are actually really important, with the first being choosing between spawning on the east side of the world or the west side of the world, giving you access to different jobs at different times. The east side lets you be a professor or nurse quicker, while the west side lets you be a military general or CEO of a company faster. After that, you get asked which types of Pokemon you like the most, and these choices will give you what starters you can choose from. So I ended up with a ghost Pokemon. All of these choices add tons of variation and added content onto what I believe to be a stale Pokemon format. And if you don't like these paths, you can still train to defeat the Elite Four and gain badges like any other Pokemon game. So it delivers something for everyone. And what's better than that? Next, we have a fighting Pokemon game, and I'm not talking about Pokken. Pokemon Type Wild is a 2D fighting game designed by a past artist from the Pokemon series, and you can really tell the animations and backgrounds are extremely beautiful and give a perfect Pokemon vibe that'll make you feel like it's a real Game Freak game. It includes many fan-favorite Pokemon to choose from as well, like Blaziken, Gengar, Lucario, Gardevoir, and others like Combuskin, Balloon, Swalot, and Snorlax, all with their own combo attacks and special abilities, along with extra Pokemon used as assists. The only issue I have with this game is that I suck at fighting games, and the easy mode was even too hard for me. Plus, Breloom's extendy arms are stupid and cheap, and they piss me off. So I started playing as Breloom. I have to say though, if you want a Pokemon fighting game more like Street Fighter, or if you're just tired of Pokken, I would say give Type Wild a try. Also, I would recommend a controller or fight pad to make pulling off special moves a bit easier than with the keyboard. A few years back, there was a Pokemon game that got huge traction, and till today is still pretty busy on the servers, which is Poke MMO, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You play Pokemon, but online with other people, so while you explore and play your game, you can see other players walking around fighting, and you can also battle and trade with anyone online that you would like. Recently though, along with being able to play Fire Red, they also added Silver to the game, allowing you to play even more, and find even more awesome Pokemon to show off to all the noobs around you. I mean it though, it seems like a lot of people with legendaries like to just chill in the starting town like, look how awesome I am! Even worse than Gary Oak. Truthfully though, that's about it. If you've played Pokemon, just imagine that, but online with other people and friends. Next is the one and only 3D Pokemon game on this list, called Pokemon 3D. Who would have guessed? It's a 3D version of Pokemon Silver, and as cool as it looks, I think I may have to stay with the original Pokemon design as a favorite. The controls are a bit weird, having you still turn before being able to move forward. Stopping you from moving on a diagonal and not having a top-down view makes it really hard to tell where you're going, especially with all the grass blocking your sight. The game is also currently in beta, so the fight sequences aren't perfect. They do look cool with a sweeping transition from gameplay to battle, but there's no animations for attacks and the camera work is a little off at times, but I can see where the battle idea is going and I really like it. My biggest issue though is that I couldn't find anywhere in the menu to save, so I thought, hey, it must just auto-save, and I closed the game down. A few minutes later, I come back to continue playing and I start from the beginning again, which really sucked. Next, we have a very cool ROM hack, one of only 2 in this entire list, which allows you to play through the actual TV show in a Pokemon game. But truthfully, I couldn't get the ROM to work. Whenever I started it, I got to a part where the sparrow chases you down, but there was nowhere for me to go, so I looked up strategy guides and found that my area looked different than everyone else's for some reason. So I downloaded a different ROM and ROM patch, and the same issue popped up. No clue why, but it just happened. I don't want to take away from this game though, because it is amazing. After looking at some Let's Play, there is tons to do and lots of stuff from the TV show. From Pikachu disobeying you to the Squirtle Squad and more. it's an awesome game for fans of the show, so hopefully the hack works out better for you than it did for me. The last game on the list has to be the only game I did not like whatsoever. What we have here is known as Pokemon Snakewood, and at this point, truthfully, I was getting tired of Pokemon games, and this game just did not help at all. First off, the story is just weird, having you fight zombies and zombie Pokemon to save the world and find your brother, but the biggest issue is that I picked a Pokemon called Beltoy, and he was not good at all. The first actual enemy I came across instantly mops the floor with my Pokemon, and guess what? There are no trainers to challenge to raise my level, so I was stuck grinding. And on top of that, the Pokemon I could catch in this area are all pretty much garbage, so I really didn't want to bother catching them. I did want to give the game a chance though, so I looked up a couple reviews and found one by this nice channel called Classy Reviews, and well, it looks like I was in for a lot more if I kept playing. Including more insane trainers with stupid hard Pokemon for the start of the game, which means tons of grinding, plus a story that gets even dumber as it progresses. I thought maybe this game would be interesting with the zombie Pokemon and headless stuff, but it turned into a grind fest I just wasn't willing to put my time into. The Pokemon community is one amazing community, making tons of fan stuff like games, pictures, cartoons, stories, and more. And you know what? They all deserve a round of applause, and just to help support them, check out any of the games that I've talked about today or in part 1. And also, if you haven't seen part 1, go check it out, leave a like, a subscribe, all that cool stuff, and check out a video that should be popping up now as a card called Legendary's Undertale Review. He's one of my Patreons, and he's making some really cool content, so I hope you guys check that out as well. Until then, I'll see you all in the next video. Welcome to another episode of Fan Games, and this one gives a special thank you to Ali Alakim, who sent me a huge list of Crash Fan Games that I hadn't talked about yet. So I thought it was about time that we finally made Crash Bandicoot Fan Games Part 2. Oh yeah, and if you didn't see last week's video, I am currently in another location. I'm on a vacation type of thing, so I'm not currently at my current residence. So I'm lacking A, a tripod, B, lighting, C, multiple other things. So I'm doing what I can with what I have. I hope you still enjoy the video, and get ready for some awesome Crash Fan Games. Usual, let's talk about the few games we aren't able to play quite yet, but do look very interesting. First, we have Crash Bandicoot Multiplayer. That's going to let you play Crash Bandicoot with a friend in a Portal-esque type of style. It's an interesting idea, but may be hard to pull off. What I found more interesting in the video was the ability to place crates around the map. A Crash Bandicoot maker game could be a really great idea, though hard to put together. Next, we have Crash Bandicoot for PC. Not a fantastic title for a game, but an interesting idea, that's for sure. This developer is trying to take a bunch of the favorite levels from Crash Bandicoot games, including Crash 1, 2, and 3, and make an HD game around them where Crash travels through time trying to fix all the timelines. The game itself looks cool, but obviously has some work ahead of it, since there isn't much done for any of the levels, but I'm interested to say the least where this project will end up. A lot of people also keep asking me about Crash Bandicoot Mayhem, which I was actually really excited to play because out of all the games I looked at, it probably looked the best, or at least close to it. Sadly though, the creator of the game got a lot of bad comments and feedback about the game, and he decided to take the video down and the download for the game down as well. And I can no longer find it anywhere on the internet to download. So, if any of you have a download for it that you'd be willing to send me, I would be grateful. But until then, I can't really cover it. All I have to say though is that it reminds me a lot of Crash Twinsanity and how it was an open world kind of game. And the art style of Crash and the enemies was really nice. Not sure what about it fit Crash so well, but it did a great job. Hopefully the creator may take from this game and put something even cooler together for his fans. Or he might just give up because people are rude. You know. Either or. The last game I wasn't able to play is Crash Bandicoot Time Twisted. And no, this isn't a crossover with the Sonic fan game of the same name, but it is a remake of Crash Bandicoot Warped. Not sure if Warped would have been the game I would remake, but it was an interesting idea, and we can see from the gameplay that the creator has put a decent amount of effort into these levels, and I wish him the best of luck in everything he does because this would be a fantastic game to play, alongside the already announced HD remake of Crash Bandicoot 1, 2, and 3. So hopefully that doesn't make him not want to make this, and doesn't make him quit. We'll see. But now it's time to talk about the games I was actually able to play. And I thought it would be fitting for the first couple games I talk about to be made by the person who sent me the list of Crash Bandicoot games to talk about. Ali Alakim, as I already mentioned at the start of this video, also created 2 Crash Bandicoot games. So, let's give them a try, see if they're good, and the first one is called Crash Bandicoot Adventure. Thing about this game though, before I start off, is for some reason it has a weird amount of Sonic stuff in it, from secret hidden Biggs the Cat to sound effects and other things tossed around. The game itself is cool though, taking from levels in the other games. The issue though is that the controls aren't quite spot on, so making the difficult jumps can be challenging, especially when it comes to making the jumps on the bridge level. He also added a level from Sonic Lost World as a playable level for Crash. It's a cool idea, but I think it would have been cooler if Crash could walk around loops or circle around the planet like Sonic could in the actual game. The second game he created was called Crash Underwater, which is pretty much what it sounds like, a Crash game based only on being underwater. But don't worry, it's not like the other games where you ride in a sub or anything else stupid like that. You're just inside a pipe underwater, kinda like a weird underwater lab kinda deal. And just like Adventure though, there is a weird amount of Sonic characters around and Sonic sound effects. I'm just assuming these were used from a previous game he created to make it easier for him. Overall though, I think this would make for a really cool world inside a real Crash game. Like, you know, there's the medieval level, the beach level, well this should be a level, and implement the stuff he has in here, like water breaking into the dome and chasing you, falling through water into a different and lower area of the map, though I think when this happens, the fish should change and the water should get darker and creepier. And the idea of having to leave the pipe to walk in the water is also super awesome. I would love to see these ideas implemented into a real Crash Bandicoot game. Next we have Unfair Crash, which is just what it sounds like. It's pretty much I Wanna Be the Bossy, but for Crash Bandicoot, and it is really hard and calls for a lot of on-point jumps and a lot of dying to unfair, stupid stuff. I was kinda into it though until I got past the first segment, then entered the second area and died right away, and then had to restart from the beginning, yay! I gave it a few more goes, but I could never figure out how to get past the starting point and I just always fell through the ground, so I quickly got upset and quickly shut off the game. And here we have another game called Crash for PC, which again is basically what it sounds like, Crash Bandicoot on PC. And sadly, this one's crap. Like, probably the worst Crash game that I've ever played. Well, second worst. I actually had to skip some of the levels because they just were not beatable, with some obstacles being super hard to pass and having to jump past it with frame perfect skills. One thing about this game I could say that is good though is it's not as bad as Crash Bandicoot Crystal Sis's Power. You heard me right. First off, they spelled Crystal's power wrong. But from what I can tell, it's like a Mexican Crash game that was translated to English. But as you may be wondering why I thought this game was so bad, well, let's just say it has tripping. I'm not sure why, but randomly when I would try to jump, Crash would just sometimes trip. And you know, when your game revolves around jumping and platforming, if the jumping part doesn't work well, then the game's going to be bad. Never mind the fact that the bosses are boring since you're just jumping on boxes till you get to the boss, then they take damage. And then you do that 2 more times and the boss dies. I still can't get over the fact though that there's tripping in a game revolving around jumping and platforming. Whatever. Let's talk about the last fan game and my favorite of them all on this list. Crash Nitro is a project to remake Crash Bash in HD with new characters and online multiplayer. As someone who loves Crash Bash, this is an awesome idea to me and is actually turning out really well so far. It only has 2 minigames, being the one where you throw crates at each other and the air hockey kind of one where you block balls from going into your post. They also included unlockable costumes for each character that you can get from beating certain events, different maps for each game type so they don't get boring, and even relics and other quests to keep you busy if you want to 100% the game. This is a game I'm super excited for, not because it's something I'm interested in, but because it also plays really well and adds something new to an old game rather than just trying to improve it with some kind of HD remake. They're actually adding some really good things to this game. Now, I would just love to see them improve the boss fights a little bit and then we would be golden. Like crispy, perfect marshmallow over a roasted fire kind of golden. And that is it. I'm pretty sure I have talked about every Crash Bandicoot fan game that I could possibly talk about. Unless you guys know more. If you do, post them in the comments below and I'll make sure to talk about them in a mini video or something else. We'll see. But let me know because I'm pretty sure I've covered them all by now. Hopefully I have, and hopefully you enjoyed this video. And if you did, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, comment below about your favorite Pokemon, because Pokemon Go is more searched on the internet than porn. That's impressive. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you all in the next episode. I got cool graphics now. Isn't that awesome? Isn't that cool? Isn't that sweet? Yeah, I upgraded. Now I have cool stuff. Like I used to, but now I have it again because I had to do things. You know what? It looks cool. That's all you need to know. Look, it's a green screen. It's off, on, off, on, off, on. I'm having too much fun with this. But what are we here for today? We are here for Banjo-Kazooie Fan Games. Obviously, not going to be a long video because there's only 2 that I can find. If you guys know of one that I don't know of, post it in the comments below. I'll make another video on that game specifically or on those games specifically. So, moving forward, we have 2 games to talk about today. Banjo-Kazooie 3E, which is a kind of 2D platformer kind of Crash Bandicoot game. It's not exactly 2D because it's 3D, 2D thing going on, but it's cool. It's interesting. We'll take a look at that. And we also have to take a look at Banjo-Kazooie Returns, which is a fully done 3D Banjo-Kazooie game, just like the N64 game. It actually uses a development tool called Banjo's Backpack, something like that, which allows you to make your own Banjo-Kazooie levels using assets from the game or your own models that you can import. It's a really cool thing. It's a really cool tool for people to make whatever they want with. And these guys are making a full brand new Banjo-Kazooie game that I will be showing you. I wasn't able to play it because there's no playable stuff for it, but I was able to check out some trailers, and we'll take a look at it. Hopefully you guys get excited for this stuff. Alrighty, so let's hop straight in to Banjo-Kazooie 3. Sounds so weird. Banjo-Kazooie 3E starts off with Blackbeard learning about Gruntilda's whereabouts on top of her lair where Banjo left her to rot. Upset by this, he heads to find her and brings her back to life to work together as a team to beat Banjo and Kazooie. It's nothing super crazy for a plot, but still an interesting idea to bring back Blackbeard. I also like how he's talking is just him going, arr, 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 arr. It's awesome. Like I stated before, Banjo-Kazooie 3E is a 2D platformer that has you traveling through Gruntilda's lair, finding jiggies and musical notes to unlock new areas and levels in the game, just like you would in the actual Banjo games, but you know, in 2D. There's also only one level outside the main hub area, and it's an anthill. Truthfully, the controls are kinda bad, like jumping on the slope is a nightmare, and making some jumps can be a pain in the butt. But with some time and effort, I was able to beat the boss of the level, collect all of the items, and escape. I was also able to find another room that looked like I could enter, but it needed 6 jiggies to enter, and I only had 3, and I couldn't find any other ones to get 3 more to enter the room. So I'm pretty sure this is where the demo ends off, sadly. Now that was Banjo-Kazooie 3. Awesome, just like I said. And hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and we're going to be hopping into the next even cooler game, Banjo-Kazooie Returns. I can't wait for this game to come out, and after you see these videos and we talk about it, you guys will be as stoked as I am. Banjo-Kazooie Returns is just a huge nostalgic trip for any fan of Banjo-Kazooie. Just watching the trailers and seeing Banjo-Kazooie travel through new interesting worlds is just breathtaking. I love how some of the levels are turning out too, especially the one with the weird pink trees and the Christmas level. Who doesn't love a great Christmas level? It's basically just Banjo-Kazooie, but with new content to explore. I would consider it more like a DLC with more to it, and I can't wait to get my hands on it to show all of you. But till then, we can just check out the description below, which will have a link to the YouTube channel uploading all of the gameplay and trailers, so you can watch it for yourself if you wish. And that is everything for today. Thank you all so much for coming out and watching this video, clicking on it, going, wow, that thumbnail looks cool, let's click on it, and then you did. Thank you so much for doing that. I really like to move my arms around, and I have so much more space to do it now because of this green screen, so I'm gonna do it so much. Look, you can even see my feet. Whoa! I'm too excited for this. Alrighty, thank you so much. I will see you all in the next video. Post in the comments below what you would like to see me do, top 10 review, cut content, fan-made games, and what you would like me to see do those on. Woo! I'm running out of breath. Getting excited. Alrighty. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, show them all this cool shit, post it on Banjo-Kazooie forums, post it on Reddit. Speaking of Reddit, I'm thinking of making a Reddit page for this channel. It's going to be a big forum thingy for all of my fans to go to, talk about stuff, hang out. I want to make this more of a family hangout group kind of thing. And it's hard to do on YouTube's. So I'm thinking of making a Reddit, thinking of making stuff. It's nice on Twitch because you have the chat and everyone can talk and hang out, but YouTube doesn't have that, so I want to make a Reddit specifically for that. So, I'll talk about that if I do it. We'll see. Alrighty, thank you so much, and I'll see you all in the next video.